I had one family in foster families would put me in a shopping cart and push me downhill towards moving traffic. I remember hitting the curb and flying out, writhing in pain. They make you do it again and again. When I was 3, I had one would put me in a chicken coop and force me to chase chickens. And if I caught a chicken, I got a meal that night. If I didn't catch a chicken, I didn't get a meal. I would sneak out of bed in the middle of the night, hop on the counter and grab food. And if I got caught doing it, I'd get beat in the middle of the night. And there was one family where we were late for school. We had to make a turn. At an intersection, I was in the right-hand side passenger. His son was in the middle. He reaches over, opens the door while we're turning and pushes me out of the car. I remember rolling and then he stopped the car, got out, dragged me over, yelled at me. One family, they held my chin and forced me to lick at the bottom of the neighborhood kids' shoes until my tongue bled. This is all before 6 years old.
Hey, I'm Scott Brandon Hoffman, aka Brandon AF, and this is the Mostly Conscious Late Night Show. And I got a warrior, a ninja warrior, is in the green room. And I'm talking about not just in his athleticism, but in his every way he shows up in the world. And I'm super excited to introduce him to you. We'll be right back after this. Almost live from the internet, it's the Conscious Late Night Show with your host, Brandon AF, with tonight's special guest, Anthony Trucks. Brandon AF. Never fail to laugh and giggle at the people in the green room when they watch those videos. Every single time, they don't expect it. They don't expect it. And I think it just puts a smile on their face and gets them to lighten up a little bit, which is great. So Anthony Trucks, he is just a really super cool dude. We'll go into more details about his life story, but he is just like this badass ninja warrior. He was actually on NBC, on the American Ninja Warrior. He's a former NFL athlete. He's an incredible speaker, like one of the best speakers I've seen on stage in a long, long time. He rocks his vulnerability. He's totally powerful. He's got a podcast called Aw Shift. I said shift, people. I did not say the other words. So get your minds out of the gutter. So anyway, I want to welcome to the show. He's also a best-selling author of this book right here, Identity Shift. And that's his new book, so go get it. And we'll talk about that after too. Let's welcome him to the show. What's up, Anthony?
How you doing, man? That's a cool intro thing. I'm sitting here, I'm getting what do they call it? It's not penis envy, but it's like video envy, you know?
It's what envy?
Video envy. I'm it's essentially people were like, it's weird. You get it. Penis envy makes sense.
Yeah,
but the your stuff, all the edits and the cool video, I'm like, how do I do all of that?
You know what? I'll turn you on to it. It's I got to tell you, last time I started this, down this road, I started with Zoom, like a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's it's awkward in a lot of ways, unless you've got a team doing a bunch of editing for you. It's like side by side, and you're just nodding your head, whatever. There's no cuts, there's no edits, there's no fancy stuff. This thing, literally, there's no editing after production.
It's beautiful.
It's just it's all built right in. Yeah, so
right,
as long as you hit the right buttons, and if you don't, you make fun of it. That's what I do because I've had those mistakes too.
I gotta do it. Someone's told me about it before, but I think it's a testament to somebody's ability to be great at their craft, where they actually spend time to make sure that the people listening are getting the quality that you want to put out. So it's not just having great guests, but it's also the whole, kind of package. So kudos to you for doing that, man.
Thanks, man. It took I went through about 2 or 3 weeks of hell trying to figure it out.
I didn't. Now you know how to do it. You can probably teach people now.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about that. It's worth it. So anyway, I know you. I'm trying to remember I remember exactly what it was now. 2019, Brendan Burchard's influencer event.
Yeah,
San Diego. You come on the stage, and I was just like, damn. I mean, just holy shit, watching you on stage. Just the way you walked out, the way you opened, the way you hooked, the way you started telling your story, and the details of your story that you went into were just like mind-blowingly, I don't even know what the word to say. It just like completely ripped open my heart, and also the audience's heart. But just to see the transformation and who you've become in the process. So I'd love to kind of go back to those days, because I know you've been through a lot of stuff, foster care and traumas and all kinds of things. And I would love for you to just unpack some of that so people can have context for where you started and who you are now.
Yeah. That was a good time, man. The influencer event was before the world shut down. It was one of those epic. It's like there's pivotal moments in like careers, and that for me was a good hockey stick moment, we'll call it. because everybody found out about me. I was sharing a stage with Rachel Hollis and E.T. and Tom Bilyeu, and Brennan was there. So it was
Yeah.
like everybody got introduced to me, and they're like, "Who the heck is this guy?" And then when I was done, people were like, "You're my favorite speaker." I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah, you
So
are you
uh,
were one of the top ones for sure.
yeah,
You
I had a
just
blast.
you rocked that stage, man.
I appreciate it, man. I
Yeah.
still do. So I just got back from a speech last night, actually.
Nice.
Uh, but no, yeah. So go back to my story. I guess the thing that is relevant, right, for people to understand why in the world listen to me about anything. I'm a really big proponent of you should not be teaching people how to run the race unless you've crossed the finish line. So for me, I've crossed a lot of finish lines, and I only talk about the races I've run. For me, I've gone through the journey of like a kid being given away at 3 years old, and I had to deal with the foster care system and really heinous, not so great foster parents, and not knowing really who I was, like kind of having that question of who am I? And we all have that question at some point. I just had it really early. And then at 6 years old, I landed in my sixth foster home, which is an all white family. And I had this dynamic that was weird. Like they loved me. I was 100% accepted, but I didn't have anybody that looked like me around me. And I
Mm,
had this, I was always in trouble at school because I had ADHD and I would act up and I wasn't loved. My biological mom's making life hell and nowhere to be found. I got three siblings I was kind of grown up with a little bit, and they were just out in the ether too in foster
yeah.
care also. So I had this really tumultuous upbringing. And the problem was there's no solid base. And anyone's experienced that kind of leaf in the wind feeling, that was my existence till I turned 14 and finally got adopted and knew
Mm.
for the first time that this place I woke up, I'm for sure going to bed tonight. And so that inability to have stability, it throws us, man. Anybody that
Yeah,
has those
yeah.
moments sucks.
Rocks your identity. And do you care if you want to, if you want to drop into any of those moments that you had? Because you had some pretty hideous moments, if I
Yeah.
recall. They were,
I
and
don't mind.
they're pretty graphic and pretty
Yeah.
heavy. It's up to
Yeah.
you. If you want to share, I just think sometimes,
Sure.
people
I've
connect,
yet to ever I've never said no to anybody asking questions on stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, if we go back to like the 3 to 6 is probably I think you're alluding to. When I was 3 in that 3-4 window, I had this like one family of the foster kids, the foster families, one would put me in a chicken coop and force me to like chase chickens. And if I caught a chicken, I got a meal that night. If I didn't catch a chicken, I didn't get a meal that night. And I would sneak
Mm,
out of the bed in the middle of the night and hop on the counter and grab food. And if I got caught doing it, I'd get beat in the middle of the night. If I got food, because I didn't know when I was going to get more food, I'd hoard food. And they'd wake up the next day because a little 4-year-old can't really hide food that easily. And I'd get beat. So like it was always this connection. Like I had to earn my food in weird ways in that house. Another family, they would put me in a shopping cart and push me downhill towards moving traffic. And I would always like go across the street. Thankfully, never got hit. I remember hitting the curb and flying out, and it's just you're writhing in pain. They make you do it again and again.
wow.
And then one family, they sat me in the corner of like a curb, and they like held my chin and forced me to lick the bottom of the neighborhood kid's shoes until like my tongue bled. It was really weird, like, heinous stuff. This is all before 6 years old, and
Mm,
back then, people don't realize like social workers they don't know what's going on in the house. There's no social media. There's no videos, and most of us foster kids, we want to go home. So what do we do? Our logic is we think if I tell people how bad this house is, they'll send me back to my real mom and real dad. And so there are kids that make stuff up, and then there are kids who tell the truth, and you can't tell which is which. So they shove them all to the same. They're all just making it up. No one could be that bad to a kid, and so it's just crazy.
yeah.
I didn't even. There's one you don't even know about. I don't talk about it often. There was one
What's that?
family where like dad was like he was a weird dude, and at one point like we were late for school or something, and we had to make a turn, and he had this weird old rickety truck, and it was like a 2-seater little tiny like Toyota kind of truck. And we were at an intersection. I was in the right hand side passenger. His son was in the middle. He was in the left, the driver's. And he was making a left turn and he reaches over because it was small and he opens the door while we're turning and pushes me out of the car. And I remember rolling and then like he stopped the car, got out, dragged me over, yelled at me. It was very weird. I remember
Good
it to this
Lord.
day. It was
Yeah.
one of those moments of like, what is going on? And it was bad. It was just, yeah, really bad situations back then.
It's incredible, incredible. And you were such a little kid. Like, how did you, I mean, were you totally in survival mode at that point or just doing what
I
you're told to do? Like, how did you feel inside?
when I frame up survival mode, it's interesting because you frame survival, and I look at survival as like I'm ill equipped for the moment in time, or it's a moment that's separate from what I've known something to be, right? Like, so if I'm in good situation, all of a sudden something happens, I go into survival mode. But I think for me, that was just my reality.
That
I
was
I
your
didn't
normal life. Yeah.
I didn't see it as survival mode. When
Mm.
I take my brain back there, that was just what life was like. Like I didn't realize anybody didn't have life in that manner. It was just this
Mm.
weird acceptance and understanding that no, I suck, I'm not loved, I'm not good enough, and this is the stuff that happens to people like me. It's just must be how the whole world works. And then it's not until you get
Yeah.
older and you get more aware of like classmates and stuff. And you're like, oh wow, yeah, that's not supposed to be going on.
Yeah. Yeah. And what point in your life did you actually have that awakening where you started to see like outside the world? Like there was a lot
Um,
going on?
yeah, I mean, it was probably like sixth, seventh grade. No, not six, I'm sorry, 6 or 7 years old. Because at that point, I was finally into like first and second grade. Because prior, from like 3 to 4 to 5 to up to six, I wasn't even like in school really, you know. So you don't have a lot of things going on except for what's at the house. You're just at home. And then when you go into the regular school, now you're like, okay, all the rest of my classmates. Now I had horrible social skills for obvious reasons. So I was only allowed at kindergarten for 30 minutes a day. I couldn't go longer. I got in trouble. And it was, kids knew I was a bad kid. If a kid wanted a
Yeah.
toy I had, there's this little girl I remember one time. I remember creepy things. I can tell you the layout of my house when I was 3 years old. Like it's all the stuff is
That's
locked in still.
crazy. Yeah.
And this one girl, like she had I had a toy, she wanted the toy, and I was like, "No, I'm playing with it." And I remember she started crying, and the teacher came over. She says, "He took it from me." So he snatched it out of my hands, a male teacher, snatched it out of my hand and gave it to her. And it's like at this age, like she already knows how to work the system. Like the kid who's in trouble, just fake it. You know, like a young little Karen. And so like this is my world, man. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I did again, I didn't know different. That was my reality.
I mean, I know so many people have been through, like I've been through my own hell and back too, but it definitely wasn't, it wasn't like that, but it's the same thing. Like I grew up in a very, traumatic environment with a rageaholic father throwing
Mhm.
things, screaming, like raising the roof off the house, screaming, yelling. You never knew when
Yeah.
it was going to blow. You never knew when it was going to blow. And you just, and it's like your nervous system is just like, what the fuck? It's like, it's like, it's
Yeah, yeah,
not,
yeah.
and you start to realize when you go to other people's houses, it's like, I don't see that over there. But then I found out there was way worse over there in a lot of those houses too. So
Yeah.
it's like you never know. You never know. And I think it affects everybody different. Do you
Yeah.
have any of those? I don't know if you follow too much woo or anything like that, but do you believe that that was all for a purpose of some sort? Like your soul
Oh,
came for
yeah.
that? Yeah.
I don't know if it's funny we call it woo woo stuff. And I think it's odd because woo is not said by the people that are doing woo woo stuff. It's by the people that are not. And they give it this connotation of negativity
I'm glad
that
you said
allows
that
them.
actually, because I mean I've been
Yeah.
doing it for like 25 plus years, but it's like I didn't know what where you were at with it, so I'm just kind of
Yeah. No,
tossing it out and
100%.
reframing it. But yeah, I'm just curious if you feel like your soul kind of came for that to turn you into this epic
I would
warrior
say,
that you
yeah.
are. Yeah,
Yeah, 100%. In hindsight, yeah, 100 that's it had to have gone through that. And it's weird because I grew up I'm in from a blue collar realm. I played professional football. My dad was a welder. I grew up really, really poor in a suburban area. Like, it just so I grew up in that realm where nobody talks about their feelings. That's just not what you do. And I'm still nearby those people. They float in kind of
yeah,
my circles because it's family.
yeah,
But the interesting thing is no one likes how they feel. No one's enjoying feeling like crap or having this childhood stuff they dealt with. No one enjoys it, and they covered up with drinking and look at my team I'm going to watch this weekend and let's
yep,
eat a bunch of food and go party and like then I look at it, I go that's a lot of there's a lot of unsettled chaos inside that heart. And what they call it to grow is woo when really it's not. It's like you kind of all of anybody who wants that peace inside that's just peace. It's just what it is. It's just like
yeah,
you're seeking peace from navigating these different things, but the journey to get there looks so overwhelming or so out of character for them. We
mhm,
have to go and put this negative skew on it so that we don't have to feel bad for not doing it. We can bring that person who's at a peaceful place down to a level like we're at because we condemn it or demeasure, make fun of it, so we can
right.
feel comfortable on our low little stoop.
Yep, that sounds like what I grew up with. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like, no feelings, no crying,
yeah,
no showing anybody your vulnerability or your weakness, none of that shit. And yeah, it was like I remember when I first got turned on to this stuff myself, I think it was I got hooked on to Wayne Dyer and Tony Robbins at the same time, which was two little different sides of the coin to a degree.
yeah,
But
mhm,
I just remember how I had no tools at all. Like I was bearing this stuff inside me, and I
yeah,
went to be, I was successful at my point in my life when I found this stuff, but it almost killed me. And I was like, and
mhm,
that was my wake up call. It was like, I just made $1 million. I was like, got the American dream, did all this stuff. And it's like, I feel like I want to die. And that's
mhm,
when spirit or soul, universe, whatever you want to call it, opened me up and turned me on and goes, oh, wait, I can actually like decide how I feel. I can actually listen to what's in my heart. I can actually give space to those traumas and realize that
Hmm.
that's not my identity. I know we're going to talk a lot about identity,
Hmm.
because that's what you do. And it's like, it's very freeing. It's a lot of work. And like you said, a lot of people don't want to do the work though.
No, they'd much rather live in a small. They call there's this metaphor. It's like a little story, but it ties to why people do this. Because what you're talking about is this pain that people endure, and it's an enduring pain that they can handle. It's a level two of pain.
Yeah.
There's a story about this farmer, and this guy walks up to the farmer, and he goes, "Hey, I'm looking for directions to the corner store." So he walks to the guy's porch, and he asks, "How do I get to the corner store?" Farmer says, "Go down this street, make a left." Like a moan he hears out of nowhere. He looks down next to the farmer. There's this dog laying there, and looks at the dog, and he kind of like, ignores it and says, "Okay, so down the street, make a left." Yeah. Then you go, "Arr!" And he goes, "Sir, I'm sorry. Why is the dog moaning?" He says, "Oh, he's just sitting on a nail." He goes, "Well, why doesn't he move?" He goes, "It doesn't hurt bad enough."
Oh, good Lord.
So for a lot of us and a lot of people in life, man, they will endure level
Yeah.
two of pain forever. And at the end of like a year of 300, say 300 days, that's 600 units of pain, right? But it was so spread out, they could
Mm.
endure it, as opposed to going, let me do like some eights for like 300 days. Let's get like 240 units, but do it real quick, or like shove all this stuff. But maybe it's just tens for 30 days, 300 now, but then after that's bliss.
Yeah.
Like let's do some real hard work for a small amount of time, and then I don't have to worry about any more pain, right? But nobody wants to do that because it's too difficult, too hard, or the things they might do creates a new pain, which is I got to work on myself, but I'm gonna be cast out of my current social group because I'm doing woo
Right.
woo stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
Woo
it's just
woo.
it's not just the pain of fixing my life, but the pain of being alone in my life. And people go, keep drinking beer, keep hanging out. Let's just bury all this stuff.
Yeah. Thing is, though, it's like, I believe I was told this with one of my teachers. I had a Native American teacher for about 7 or 8 years, and her statement, whether it's true or not, was about every 7 years, whether you want to or not, your soul's gonna have to evolve. It's gonna have to go up a notch. And I think things like COVID and what we've been through right now is like these are the things that kind of force people to like, hey, we just pulled the rug out from underneath your
Yeah,
comfortable status
I
quo
agree.
life.
Hmm.
And guess what? You got to look at your shit. You got to like make some decisions on what
Yeah.
matters to you, what's important. Do you like your job? Do you like your marriage? Like what's going on and what are you doing with your life? Because it's like you can hide for as long as you want, but ultimately it's either going to kill you or you're going to have to come and snap out of it and face your demons. If
Yeah,
you
you
want a
have
happy
to.
life, right? If you want a happy
You have
life.
to. But then also some people will frame it like we'll say you want a happy life, but then people won't actually frame up that happy life because what will really make them happy will have to make them work. So there's a lot of dynamics that
You'll
spin
work.
up, and
Yeah, the
yeah,
W
no one
word.
wants to do that. So like people go ahead and say, "This makes me happy." And you're like, "Nah, it doesn't." Like some people are like, "I'm happy in my relationship," but you can watch on the outside and you can like there are people I get anxiety around just when they're interacting with themselves in a couple, and I'm like, "This is super dysfunctional right now." And but they're happy. "Oh, I'm happy." Are you? But are
Yeah,
you? Like
yeah,
because we start getting it like the whole thing of we get addicted to the demons that we know because the demon we know is better than the demon we don't.
right.
So like the evil I know is better than that. And there's
Yeah,
actually this oh man, I interviewed this amazing neuroscientist. And they were talking about how whenever we have these moments of stress and anxiety or stuff, it usually happens in the morning. But even in like conversations and arguments, our brain releases cortisol. And cortisol, if you're arguing with your spouse or you're worrying about the day, those things are drugs the brain eventually starts getting accustomed to. And so you
yeah,
find that some people are addicted to arguing because the drug that comes out in the brain needs, and they're subconsciously, when they feel it lacking, even if it's a thing they don't need, right? The brain will go, "What do we got to do to get this?" And it'll start firing off and doing things and yelling at people. Now they're in an argument back and forth because their brain's getting the drug it needs. So even that is a weird drug. The arguing is a drug. The anxiety is a drug. We get addicted to these things. And so people
yeah.
have no idea what it's like to be off of that drug.
I know. I remember having kind of unraveling that a while ago too. I was like, people are addicted to their freaking pains and to their
Yeah.
suffering and to their stories and their tragedies because it's like that's comfortable. It's like an old pair of shoes for them,
Hmm.
you know? And it's like,
Yeah.
it blows my mind away, but I see it. And it's like the one thing that is still crazy to me is how I guess the human brain is wired up a certain way. That's why I'm a big fan of dropping into your body and getting into your heart. And I'd
Hmm.
love to hear your take on that too. Is like how you start to actually get to that space where you give yourself permission to say, it's like all this noise and all this addiction and all this avoidance and all this numbing out is
Mhm.
really like, it's not what I meant to feel. It's not a joyful life. It's not a
No, it's not.
fulfilling, happy, life where you get to like be around amazing people and do epic things in the world. Like, I mean, you hang
Mhm.
around with the coolest people around, so you get what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's cool. And you know what it is? Like everybody's, everybody's settled inside. It's the best way I can explain it. Like it's
Yeah.
hard for me to be around people who are not settled inside. Now, it doesn't mean they're arguing or yelling all the time, but it could be someone that just can't shut up in my presence. Like that, if you're around me, and I'm not saying that I don't want people to talk around me if you listen to this, it's fine to have a conversation, but sometimes we can both just sit there outside and stare at the water and just both shut up, and that's okay. Like that I'm at peace, and I can sit with you and be at peace. But some people have this anxiety to have to talk and fill the space, and it's like, hey man, like just chill out, bro. Because I
It's the
find that
presence. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that is it's a different thing, man. I love humans that can do that, and the only way you get there is by because whenever they're filling the space with stuff, like they're having to go to a place that they're not comfortable, which is inside alone.
Right.
And for a
Mm.
lot of people, and I had to go through this journey when I was like kind of fix my life after the foster care and everything. I grew into a whole new level of professional sports and divorce and trying to be with people. And then I eventually like realized I didn't even like being alone because I didn't like who I was alone with. And then when people
It's
are
a
in those
big
quiet
awakening.
moments,
Yeah.
you're forced to be with this person. If you don't like that person, you will distract. You will Viktor Frankl's existential vacuum. You'll seek things that don't serve you because they serve the distraction, so you don't have to be present inside. And so for me, like when I say settled inside, like, do you like you? 'Cause if you don't
Yeah.
like you, man, it's a
Yeah.
problem. And that is a journey to get to that point.
Yeah, yeah, I've worked with people like that too. I mean, I was like that as well. I think that's probably standard when you haven't fully dealt with your shit yet, and you're kind
Mhm.
of like you don't want to go there, so you're trying to distract yourself or be noisy or whatever. But I know it's like once you start digging in and doing that work, like the sign to me of like a really beautiful relationship, especially of like a romantic relationship, is when you can do what you just said, when you
Mhm.
can literally sit there in the silence and either look at each other, look out a window, not at your freaking phones, but actually
Just be
just
true.
just be there and not have to
Mhm.
feel like, oh, I got to fill the space or it's awkward. Like, what if they're pissed at me? What if what's happening? And
Yeah.
I can feel that in you too. It's like it's a very deep presence, which is a
Oh,
sign of people that have done work.
yeah. I just had a guy say that yesterday. He's like, "I like your humanity." Like, I just at a speech, he's
Yeah,
like, "It's always good to be." He's like, "You have a really" what do you say? A really based he's a really based, humanity, a based human like a human energy or something like that. I was like, "Thank you." Like, it was something in a sense of, like, him just being around me, just he felt like I was solid, you know? I was like, "Yeah, that's who I am," but I'm not like I don't have to, like, go and talk real fast and do stuff. I have an actual genuine conversation, curiosity,
yeah,
but, yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of I think when I show up to a space I know who I am. I don't always think I'm better than you. So it's a different part. I don't have to like play this persona of I'm better than you. I can be
yeah,
genuinely curious as a human and you having done something better or being, in a better space, it doesn't diminish me. So I don't have to try to one up you. I can be genuinely curious and be like, that's dope. Like, wait, tell me again, what is this? And these are people that if they aren't at my level in what they do. Like they're just people attending the events, and I may sit and talk with them after and like be seriously curious about something that they did because I don't do that. Like that's awesome, man. Like, and so I think in that humanity, there's this space where people don't feel like they're being judged. They don't feel like they're having a mirror shown to them of being small. And I also am not condemning the position they're at in life right now. And I
mm,
think that allows people to go, oh, like I can, they have the space to be able to be around someone that's at a higher place and they can kind of have genuine conversations.
yeah.
And then I think that allows me to enter in and give them some insight if they ask for it to help them grow. And then it plants a seed and I walk off. But yeah, that work is necessary to get to the point of being
Yeah.
a person that people wanna be around.
Yeah, it's I mean it's a beautiful thing. I'm sure you're the same way. I've worked very hard on surrounding myself with people like that.
Mhm.
There's no room for for drama or um, competitiveness in that realm. And I think it's like you said, the beauty of it is it's really, if you want to have these amazing relationships in your life and open doors to higher ups, quote unquote, and also help people quote unquote below you. I don't know why I'm doing quote unquote like that's so whatever that is, but it's
Yeah.
like it's having that it's being present for them and having that sense of curiosity and
Mhm.
humanity and let them be seen and let them be heard and
Yeah.
let them know they matter. It doesn't matter what your status is. It's like we're connected. We have the same heart. We have the same
And
humanity
for
in
me,
us, you know?
and if you want to help that person, the worst thing you can do is make them feel like they don't belong around you.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the because the scary thing for a lot of humans also is like they know the group they're in of people isn't the one they belong in. They have bigger dreams, bigger goals in the group because I think of the expectations of the five, not just the average of the five. Like, what do they expect of themselves and of you, right? And so when you're in that group and you go, man, the expectations of this group aren't very high. I want to be in that group. We look at that group and go, man, but they're at a higher level. I don't know if I fit there yet. So they're
Right.
apprehensive to go there, which means they don't want to be by themselves in between in some weird, purgatory. So they don't leave their group. They don't go to that group. They just stay stuck. And so I
Yeah.
go, no, like I want to be the guy when they come around me, they go, oh, this guy's cool because I really want to see people do well. Like, I'm gonna come
Yeah.
do this. It's not just for me to be like drop in, do a thing, and then leave. Like, I really want to have a seed planted to where like you can come back to me in a year or 2 years and be like, dude, I love what you said. It helped. I'm like, yes, awesome, right? So I
Yeah.
really want to help. And so the way that I partially help is by having them feel like they can belong around me in my circle, do what I'm doing. And I'm a low level guy comparatively to like The Rock and like movie stars. I'm just a dude, but there's levels to all of our lives. And so for those who are at a
Yeah.
level that is not quite at mine in my space, those are the people that I want them to be around me and go like, oh, when they think about how I made them feel to go, he's just a regular guy. If I just do the things, like I could be up there. He's not special. He doesn't float on clouds. And that gives them that little bit of a nudge to feel more comfortable and confident to take the next step.
I think that's true of pretty much most people that I know, especially in our industry. The more
Yeah.
successful, the higher up they are, the more
Mhm.
generous they are, and the more friendly
Yeah.
they are, and the more real they are, and the more authentic they are. The
Mhm.
majority of them, and I feel like that's another character trait of that is that generosity and vulnerability, and like,
Mhm.
hey, we don't have it all figured out, and everyone's working on ourselves every day. I mean, I'm on Brendan's list. I know you're in
Mhm.
his group in the growth day. Every day
Mhm.
that dude's in my ear,
Yeah.
pouring in those wisdom bombs. And I'm like, dude, I love you. It's like, cause it's like you're real, you're vulnerable.
Yeah.
You've
Genuine.
kicked major ass. You put in the work, and you
Mhm.
surround yourself with amazing people like yourself.
That's it. That's how you do it, man. And then you
And
just keep on doing the same thing and passing it down. And that guy's done a whole lot for my world, man.
I'll
He's done a
bet.
lot. And I've asked him, like, bro, I don't know, how can I pay you back? And genuinely, every time, it's never been different. He goes, just go and serve the world. Like he wants to make sure that my payback is paying back the world from what he gave, right? From perspectives, from support, from ideas. And so that's kind of how the world rolls. And so it's kind of a thing of pay it forward, genuinely. Like I don't
Yeah.
he doesn't need money. He doesn't need friends. He doesn't need notoriety. He doesn't need that kind of stuff. And just what he needs, I think, from people is like to know that what he is putting out into the world is being received and done to the level he wants people to. And so for me in my position in our kind of group and as a friend, like that's what I do, man. I say, okay, cool, sounds good. Like I can't like he has this thing. He takes us out to Napa, takes us to Puerto Rico. He pays for it all. I'm talking like one of the things we went to was like a villa owned by I want to say it's like Rothschilds or something out in Puerto Rico. It was like
Mm.
16 grand a night just
Mm.
for the stay there. And we were there for like 3, 4 days. He's taking care of food, helicopter trips. Dude, I'm telling you. And it's like he doesn't need anything. He doesn't need anything from us.
Right.
So I'm like,
Right.
how do I repay that? All I do is make sure the effort isn't wasted.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah. And, the thing is, like, to have that kind of success is like, if you have a generous heart and you care about humanity and you care about paying it forward, is like, what a great blessing to have in your life to have that kind of wealth and success, right? Because not only do you
Yeah.
get to hang around the coolest people on the planet, but you get to impact millions of lives
Mhm.
and hang out in $16,000 night villas with good-looking dudes
Yeah.
like Mr. Anthony. I always say that was another thing. When I first met you, I was like, damn, like the dude's just ridiculously good looking. He has an epic body and this big heart. And he sounds like he belongs on radio, but he's got a face for TV. So
Yeah, I try. I do my thing. God bless me with some things, man. It's kind of weird. You know what the funny thing is? Growing
uh,
up, I was really like self conscious about all of it. Like I was the only black kid in my school. None of the girls liked me. I was also the dirty kid in class. I was like the stinky kid. I had showers. I had like a nasty fro. As I've gotten older, it's been this thing where I've had to get used to people giving me praise in that manner. Women, men. I get inboxes from men too, man. But it's one of these things where I'm like, I do kind of settle in and go, okay, I am okay with getting the appreciation. I make sure that people realize that I don't see it as my greatest quality. Like it's not. It's
Yeah,
cool.
no,
It helps.
it's an
I'm not gonna
external
lie.
thing, but it's good to look at. You know, it's like it's a blessing, like you say. It's like, you know, God blessed you. And the thing is, we live in a world like that where a lot of people look at external things, and so having that kind of
Helps.
presence, you know, it doesn't hurt. Yeah, it doesn't hurt. It's like,
It doesn't hurt.
you know, it's
I'll
like,
take it in.
yeah. So another couple things I'm thinking about. I know you've been through some other parts of your journey, and I'd love
Mhm.
to hear a little bit about that. Like I know you've been through like the football letdowns. You had some family
Yeah.
issues, things like that. And I'd like to go deeper into places. I know we don't have a ton of time today, but I want to, you know, like I love like diving deep in some of these things that aren't just typical of on
Good.
people's websites and all that kind of stuff. But I
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
know I know we want to get to the point where we, you know, I want to hear how you like rewired your brain and talk about
Yeah.
all the identity stuff as well. Make sure we hit on that. But I'm really
Let's do it.
curious about that journey and how that started to get you to start shifting your mind and you know, take it to that next level.
Well, let's yeah, let's I'll talk through the 50,000-foot view, and we'll dive
Yeah.
into the parts and focus in what
Okay.
makes sense to you. So,
Cool.
14, I get adopted. I try my hand at something new, which we all try something new, was football. I was horrible at it, which we all are horrible at the thing at first. And I had that emotional connection to like, I'm not good at this. It doesn't feel good. I should probably stop because it's not panning out. And so I did what we most of us do. I make excuses, kind of walk away. Did it for a couple years, had a moment that woke me up, and I was like, I can't keep living a life the trajectory I was living. I wanted to learn how to do things differently and be great in football. So I leaned into football in a unique way, got much more confidence, became a much stronger athlete, showed up the next year after this really dark work window of just effort with no praise and actually being, made fun of and ridiculed. But I came back an animal, turned into being a great football player in high school, got a college scholarship, had a kid in college my sophomore year, met my real dad my sophomore year,
Damn.
started my true sophomore year. Eventually, 3 years later, graduated from college, got a chance to play in the NFL. In my third year, I got hurt. NFL stands for not for long. So,
That
3 years.
was the Pittsburgh Steelers too, wasn't it?
Buccaneers, Redskins, Steelers. Yeah.
Oh,
So I
okay.
had a weird journey
Three of
there.
them. Wow.
Yeah, 3 teams. And then tore my
Yeah.
shoulder, came home. My life fell apart because I wasn't anything besides
Mm.
football inside, and I had to
Yeah.
figure out how to go through that journey. Had a couple more kids with my wife. We were divorced. Hated her guts. Business was always up and down. I was almost bankrupt a couple times in a business, but always stayed right outside of it. Got a big contract, happened across this world, started into this world, but wasn't ready for it. I was not the man I needed to be to talk about things at the time. And I was talking about things where I was still running the race. And so I realized that was one of the biggest hindrances to my growth. And then I finished the race. I crossed some finish lines
Yeah.
and everything exploded. Happened across this concept of identity of being a really interesting tool of mine. 3 years after divorce, remarried my ex-wife, lost my mom, unfortunately. And it was a big drive to be great again. And so it turned into me fixing my life, and then from there realizing that there was something my mom gave me that was necessary to pass on to the world. And so when I fixed my life, I said I'm gonna give it back to the world, which is when this whole world opened up of the industry of speaking and sharing my personal story. I had no idea who Tony Robbins was until like maybe 8 years ago. Like it wasn't this. I've known my life, and so when I got to this point now, it's been this journey of like, how do I take what I experienced before, what I'm currently experiencing, extract something that's of great value to the world that I can teach more than just telling my
Yeah.
stories. That's what I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. What was the first stage you were invited on, or the first place you actually got up?
Oh, man, that's a great question. So when I was first starting out, I would just go to like parks, like on the grass after people do workouts. Like seriously, I get like I was at a gym owner. I'd find people doing workouts like for boot camps on the grass, and I would go to the areas and I would just come and talk to them. High schools, I would go talk to high schools. And then I eventually got in this weird speaking group, and then I got an agent out of the blue for colleges. I did colleges and bombed all of these. I bombed, by the way. And just kept getting little by little better. And at one point, it was 2016. It was October 2016. It was going to be my first big speech. I had been volunteering for Brendan Burchard and his whole team for like, I think 2 years or something. And then we kind of went through this journey of I got to know him. We became friends. I'd done this thing for fitness. And
Mm.
so we kind of started with this realm of fitness. And I remember it was like we were in Costa Rica. I was flying back because we'd moved there with the family. My wife and I got remarried, moved to Costa Rica for a little bit. And then someone tried to kidnap our kids from the private school. So everything went crazy.
Oy.
We were like, we got to get out of here. We packed everything up in a 9-hour window and flew to San Diego, which was the first speech I was going to be on, was his stage with a lot of people.
Huh.
And they're like, hey, if you don't want to speak, it's okay. We'll just do it a different time. I said, no, no, no. We're getting out of here. We're coming there. I'm going to do this thing. And so he had never saw me speak. He was trusting somebody who had told him that I could do it. And they'd never
Wow.
saw me speak. And so
That's
I
fun.
was like, I'm going to do it. And I got up there and I killed it, man. He said, to his words of the day, he says, Anthony Trucks, and I have this written somewhere. It's cool. He says, is the best natural speaker I've ever met in my life. And it was a humongous, because that dude's around a lot of people. Literally the Tony Robbins of the world, the Les Browns of the world. I mean, he's been around, the dude. So for him
Yeah,
to
for
say that,
sure.
really,
Well,
it was
that's an
big, man.
interesting question too. So I would love to unpack that a bit. So natural
Yeah.
speaker, did you do a lot of training? Did you study all that stuff, or did you literally just like, I'm gonna speak my truth, I'm gonna pour it out, and let it?
Yeah. At one point, here's football helped me because in football, you do this. You go out, you
Yeah.
practice, you play, you watch film, and it's okay to chop yourself up. It's okay. Like, I know how to be critical without being condemning. And for me,
Mm.
I'm able to look at myself and go, I didn't like that. That was weird. Like, why would I say that? And so I can watch myself and not be super cringy and learn things. And so at one point, I asked him, like, hey, should I get a speaking coach? He said, no. I was like, well, why? He goes, because he says you have this natural flow to how you talk and engage with an audience. He says, and if you give it to somebody else, they'll break it. He says,
I agree.
just follow your gut of what you do,
Yeah.
take insight, a little nuance. Like he's like, sometimes you walk too much. He says, stop when it's time to give a big point. You walk and pace, stop pacing. He's like, just, you could pace and talk, but when it's time to say something, stop, stand still, stare at one person. And so I would stare at, like these little things come
Right.
in.
Yeah, yeah.
Outside of that, I'm still me and I flow and I have fun. So like it's just a whole different feel when I get to talk. And I think I'm different from most people because I'm not up here when I talk to them. I'm very honest and upfront that about 80% of my speeches are improvisation. I know the flow of what we're talking about. Like if you look at improv, like here's the set. We're gonna be in a house and we have the car, right?
Right. Here's the
I know.
scene. Here's the scene. Go. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
I know that, but I couldn't tell you the words I'm gonna say. I couldn't tell you
You
the
know,
example.
I
I
love
couldn't
this. This
just
is
go.
this is my shit right here, man. This is what
Yeah.
resonates with me so much because like I can't even tell you. I mean, I've studied with everybody in our group in our industry, like from everybody, Brendan, Tony, Dean, Princier. I love Princier, and just the whole crew. 2,000 plus books, 25 years, and it's like I've talked about this on this show before. There has been so many times where I'm like, I have so much noise that got bombarded in here about this formula, this blueprint, this way of doing things, and my
Mhm.
soul is like, fuck, pardon my
Just do your own
French.
thing.
And I'm like, when I hear someone like you, and I know Wayne Dyer was the same way. He did not script his speeches. He did not
Ever.
script his talks.
100.
And yeah, you
Yeah.
get better over time. You get better over time. You get more natural. You flow. But it's like, I honestly think anytime I've ever had to do any kind of scripted thing, I suck because I'm
Yeah.
trying to remember a word. Whereas,
Yeah.
and I'm an improv guy too, and I live my life like that from the
Mhm.
soul. And it's like you said, learn a few things. Like, look, stop when you're making a point, when you're pacing the stage like an animal because you're like all fired up, like like you
Yeah.
do. And then there's a spot where you like stop and look at one person in the eyes.
Yeah, and there's also, like, the other part of it is I love the statement of it's hard to see the label when you're inside of the jar,
Yeah,
right? I can't see me, and so whenever I go on stages, I ask people, "Hey, what'd you see?" "Oh, it was great." "No, no, no, yeah, I get that you wanna be nice to me." "Really, what'd you see?" And what I've always been good at is in college, in pro, you get yelled at by a coach, and you have to learn how to hear what they're saying, not how they're saying it. Because some people hear things and they'll lose the message, or you can't get mad when somebody tells you something that is less than you being amazing. And so for me, like people have no problem telling me stuff because I can receive it and go, okay, okay, good, as opposed to biting their head off. Because you bite their head off, they don't give you any more insight.
yeah,
So whenever I would go on like Brendan's stage, I'd come off, he'd break it down. Hey, great here, but listen, this sucked, this sucked, this sucked. I go, okay, cool, thanks. Like and I say,
nice.
imagine if I came off and go, no, you're wrong. Would he
Yeah,
ever give me insight again? Course not. He's like, I'm
no,
not gonna deal with this dude. He's a knucklehead, right? So it's being able to do your best and realize your best isn't good enough for greatness just yet.
yeah,
And that's okay. But you can't see the greatness. You can't see what's missing because we have these cloudy, I'm in the jar.
mm.
Let somebody tell you what the label says, and you can start changing the label.
Has someone told you any like wrong ingredients on the label where it did not resonate with you at all? Like, are you a firm
Yeah.
believer of like be coached by because they're in a bigger place, or some of if it doesn't
Nah,
resonate, you let it go?
it's gotta yeah, no, it's I gotta respect you and who you are as a human before I can take insight in. I think
Yeah,
it's one thing some people take insight or feedback from people that they don't wanna be in the first place. So it doesn't make any sense.
yeah,
So I have certain people in my world. I go, okay, this person in this area, I respect them. I may not respect all of their world, right? But this person, for that area, I got respect for that. Therefore, that insight carries more weight than the troll on the internet, right? It's a big piece of understanding who the message is coming from. And then, yeah, sometimes you get bad advice. There was in the beginning, I would, hear things that, hey, when you do your thing, you should make sure that that you're loud and commanding. And I'm like, I'm not a loud and commanding guy. Like I talk, but I can't force myself to be like this, reprimanding all day. It's
right.
not
I'm
my thing.
telling you to
Or
impress you, not to impress you,
you
but to
know,
impress upon you. If you're not Tony, you don't need to talk like that.
not me. And then on top of that, some
Yeah,
people like they're real big on like there's people who are like, you shouldn't say a word that's not part of a specific like prep. Like if you haven't, let's say that there's a whole speech you're doing, the inflection, tonality, words,
I
pace,
know,
everything
I
will be
know.
to a T. And if it's not a great performance. And so for me, like I literally my pre people go, "What's your pre-speech preparation?" I go, "Well, I have a meeting with the people I'm gonna be working with, and I quite literally have a select set of questions I've refined over the years that I love. It's my question base that gives me feel for what the experience should be for the people and what information must be relayed. I get that, and then I go from that, I make the slides based on a really basic, like it's like a 9-point speech creation process for me. I cover these 9 points. Cool, it's all there. And then from there, I make slides off of that are just pictures. And the pictures aren't for me to remember. It's just for the people to have something to look at because I don't need them. It's
Yeah,
all in my head. And
yeah,
then it's
yeah.
there. And then what I do is I leave it alone. I sometimes will do this like a month before my speech. And then I'll like yesterday, I flew out to my speech and I have a speech, let's say it's at 1:30. I don't look at the slides or notes until 12:30. I was it the day before. Some people go the day before, I'm going through it and panning through it and
Right.
pacing and freaking out. No, I did the slides before based off a base of understanding I trust myself to have created so I can be at ease and at peace. And then an hour before I go on stage, I want the freshest stuff in my mind to be everything that's on this speech. So for about a good 30 minutes, which is a long time if you've done it right, I just scroll through the slides and look at my notes and I go, okay, what are the main points of, okay, this and this and this, must say this, cool. I take a look at my slides and make sure I lock in my brain what must be covered based on the notes, and then it's there, and
Yeah,
then I go up on stage. So there's no memorization. It's a straight flow. Here's slides. My slides guide me in a sense of the pictures I see for the next slide on the confidence monitor. That just tells me what I'm supposed to lead into. So I'll talk about this slide based on the time I have. I know how long I should talk about it before I go to the next slide, and it just kind of flows. And then I
yeah.
have my thing, and then everybody's like, "Dude, I love how you ingrain what we actually talked about in the meeting." Well, yeah, because that was the point of it, right? But it's all there, and then for me, it's ease. It's real easy.
So
It's odd, man.
you're just basically doing like a framework, almost like I would use a show as an example, like Curb Your Enthusiasm. They have like some scene points, but the entire
Mhm.
show is improvised around that.
Yeah, yeah, very
And
simple. It's
and
pretty
I
much how it's
honestly
done.
think I don't know, call me crazy if you want, and you've experienced a ton of speakers too. I know. I like the people like you a lot better than the people that are super scripted, that do the same speech every time with the exact tonality, the exact place on the stage. It just doesn't, especially at this time in our in like the world right now. I just
Mhm.
feel like anything that feels super polished or super scripted to that point, unless you're putting out a performance like Usher on stage or something or Ed Sheeran. But even then, like when they show their humanity and screw something up or break the character, it just feels so
Yeah.
much more alive,
It
than
does. I think there's a
yeah.
difference. So there's a difference between like professional speakers, and there are people that do that, and I got a great deal of respect because those people will tuck away for like 3 to 6 months, and they will specifically curate a performance. There's guys like Michael Port does this, and if you've watched them, they're phenomenal performances. So I don't take away too much, but I do
I
agree
get
to an
it.
extent that my job when I go up there, I tell people my job is to connect with you and what I'm teaching you for you to actually apply. But if I can't connect my heart to you, it falls on deaf ears sometimes. So
Yeah.
I tell them I'm gonna tell you things that I wouldn't tell people in ways that I don't even know what's gonna come out. But we're gonna have a conversation up here. And the way you can respond to me is I have a call out called aw shift. So I'm talking back and forth and they're having a conversation Whereas if I was doing a canned presentation, I can't have that same connection. And I also think nowadays, because we have so much social media that wasn't present before, like you didn't get to see so much video, and you could like we can tell now when somebody's acting or not more than probably ever before. I feel because it's not movie stars; it's everyday people. So if I have you come up and give a speech, I can tell if you're in your head or if you're in your heart.
Yeah.
And what do you, I can see if you're reciting something more than you are talking to me about this thing that really is going on in your head right now. And I find because we have people that are watching social more than ever, I think there is a draw, in my experience, to people who are more off the cuff like I am.
Yeah.
Before it used to be more
100%.
scripted, more poignant, more dialed, but I don't see as many prominent speakers doing that as much because they realize like, yeah, I got to have my stuff down. Here's my slides,
Yeah.
but I kind of got to be a little more loose than I used to be.
For sure, for sure. It's shifted because I think like when things like Instagram started, everyone was chasing the magazine style, the perfect photos, the highlight reels, and I
Yeah,
think we just got to a point in our humanity where we're tired of the bullshit. Like
yeah,
we want to see you with your makeup off. We want to see you
mhm,
with your you're having a bad day, but you
yeah,
still got a some wisdom and a lesson to it. We want to see
mhm,
that you actually have a heart and you're generous and you're not just doing it because you're supposed to, or
yeah,
authenticity is a buzzword.
mhm.
And
Yeah,
and
yeah, I
that's
agree.
one thing I see in you, and I really do reflect that back to you. And that just opened my heart up more too, because I was feeling, I gotta be honest, I was feeling a little not fully myself a little bit in this episode, which is unusual because
Mm,
I'm like, hey,
interesting.
you're a cool dude, like I don't know you, haven't met you before, really like talked a lot, but it's like
Yeah.
I know sitting in a closed room or even in front of a camera, like I'm sure we could just have this incredible heart to heart connection
Yeah, dude,
and
just chill and talk.
just be in the humanity, and you
Mhm.
do that really well, and that also that just opens up doors for other people to feel safe, to feel seen, to be themselves too.
That's the idea, man.
Yeah,
If I can be around people, my goal is anybody I'm around, I want them to leave and be like, "The guy made me feel good, and I'm better for being around him." That's it. Even
yeah,
if things go wrong, like little things, like when I go to the airport, there were flights delayed 4 hours yesterday, and you see the people, like I can see the woman who's doing like the flight attendant, the stewardess or flight attendant, I think it is, checking people in, and you can tell people are just down her throat about stuff. And so when I get up there, I just let them know, like, I
yeah,
see you. Thank you so much for those little things.
yep,
I don't know her. She'll never know who I am again. But it's like if I'm gonna have my presence be around you, I want it to be better in some way.
yeah,
And so just being giving people what you'd want in the moment's a big piece. And so even if that is just acceptance without judgment, it's like I'll sit with
absolutely,
people and I'll get more secrets out of people quietly and privately than,
right,
than their friends would. Not that I'm wanting to, but because I'm happy to share my dark, like my stuff that's not so great, because
yeah,
you knowing doesn't ruin my life. And in that, people can feel a little more free to be themselves and they get that like weight off their chest. Because as humans, man, we need a catharsis. And if
yeah,
you don't have a
yeah.
human that can accept it without you feeling bad, like it sucks. You're confined.
Yeah, no, it keeps you in your prison. I think what you share is very true. It's something that I practice all the time, every day as well. Like I always make sure I smile at people. I give them a like a super high hello or something that just uplifts them and let them know that they're seen and they matter.
Yeah.
And just and like asking them a question, like you say, and connecting and let them talk, let them connect.
Yeah.
It's
That's all you gotta do, man.
it's
People need
literally
the
like the
same thing.
butterfly effect, right? I mean, it could literally
Yeah.
you have no idea how much that could change someone's life. Like I've seen so many things where, and I've had DMs come to me. I've shared a couple times too. Like I'm putting out videos. I'm just like I'm sharing from my heart about a message, right?
Mhm.
And I get DMs from like 8, 9, 10-year-old kids going, "I was literally going to kill myself tomorrow morning, and I saw
Yeah.
your video, and you changed my mind. Thanks for saving my life." And I'm
That's all you
like,
need.
I didn't. This I just poured my love out.
Yeah.
That's what I do, and I bring laughter. Like those are my two favorite things.
Yeah. And for some people, that's our role here. And for some people, it's
Yeah,
not to be on social doing it, but just to be in your community doing it. It could be the teacher, it could be your friend, it could
yeah,
be your neighbor. I think we got to make sure also people realize that what we do in our world isn't something that can only be done in our world or at our level. It's
yeah,
human.
yeah,
It's just we just amplify it a little differently because we feel comfortable doing it or we enjoy doing it or whatever it might be. But for everybody else, it doesn't have to be amplified to 10 levels. It could quite literally just be, hey, this is my household. I need to talk to my kids in this way, my wife in this way, my brother in this way, my cousin. It's just there. But if you can take a page from this book and apply it to your, chapter. Like we're gonna be fine.
Yeah, yeah. Oops, what are coming on to me, man? I'm trying to go. See, this is what happens now. This is real live TV right here. I pressed the wrong button, man.
Hey,
What the hell? What's this? I got hair coming out too. um, I would love to hear a little bit more about, because I know we don't have a ton of time left, but I want to hear just like share your version of identity and how that
yeah.
shifted your life. And I'd love you also to take this on a little bit, because I love kind of being that advocate of, there's the Western version and the Eastern version, right? Like the Tom
Yeah.
Billio side and you, like identity shift, like you got to have that identity. And then there's like the Eastern philosophy, which is like, no, you got to lose your identity so you can just be your
Yeah.
spirit and all the things, and
Mhm.
not have any attachments. I'd love to hear you
I think
pop
they
into that.
merge. So this interesting thing, me, Tom Billy, like that same realm. It's interesting if you look at the brain at a neuroscience like level. There's a part of your brain called the default mode network, which is it's a collection of different parts of your brain. But in fact, if someone goes, "Who are you?" that part shuts down. You start thinking of all the things you've accomplished, you've done, whatever. We sort of find our identity in things we've accomplished or done. But if you look like Michael Singer's book, The Untethered Soul,
Yeah.
that's really a separate piece. And then if you were to have somebody just sit there, stare out in the window, and tag their brain, when they kind of start daydreaming or they're watching something and judging it or thinking or processing, the default mode network lights up, which is in fact where your identity is stored. So
Mm.
I'd say that to say this: I believe your identity is who you are when you are not thinking about who you are. And that comes up in multiple ways. It also comes up in active actions, right? When you're doing things, saying things, responding, creating, you step back and go, "Oh, that's who I am. I'm the person that handles it that way, does it this way." Like that's you're showing who you are. From the Eastern standpoint, that's kind of like, yeah, release yourself of yourself. And it's a very kind of fluid transition in, because I believe identity is something that is it's crafted actionably but operates subconsciously in flow and action and habits and reactions.
Yeah.
But those things are framed through your conscious actions over time. Look at a guy like Tom. Tom's a guy who talks about as like a skinny, kind of nerdy dude doing his thing.
Right. Right.
Now he's a beast. He's a
Yeah.
human that is formidable, right?
Yeah.
And that didn't happen on accident. It happens because what he chose to do was show up in certain ways that develop a certain mentality. And over time, he wakes up and goes, "This is who I am now," right? It's an identity that now shows up. And his in between time, that subconscious, is acting in ways that are vastly beyond what it used to be a decade ago. And so I look at identity as something where when I talk about trying to shift, I look at every level of my life and what I've gone through. And at certain points, I can't go back to the previous headspace. Like I can't go back to who I was at 18 and make sense of it. I'm like, that guy was stupid, or 20. That guy was, what is he doing there? 25, like you're tripping, 20, 30. Like, what is you out of your mind? And that means at every level I was progressing and elevating my identity. It happened through actions though, things I chose to do. And most of the things were not things the world was watching. I call it dark work.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
things that are uncelebrated, they're unsexy, they're difficult, they're out of character, they're uncomfortable. But when you do those over a long period of time, you develop these creepy, unique new skills, but also the identity to deploy those skills when they're needed.
Yeah.
Confidence, esteem, right? And so I think what people are missing when they're trying to become this person or have this outcome is they aren't doing enough dark work. That's the habits, the actions that eventually lead you to becoming this new elevated human where you look and go, I can't even function the way I used to. I see the world too differently now. I'm a different level human. And I think that's if you go to the Eastern kind of perspective of like release yourself of ego and identity, it's the same thing. It's
Mm.
just I think the Western, the way I look at like if you want to frame those two things is I just want to do it more tactically because I'm a very peaceful, separate from self, spiritual dude. Like I'll sit and just stare out the window and contemplate, like really genuinely, what is the purpose of this whole thing? I'm having a
Yeah.
great day playing
100%.
with my kids. Like I'll seriously be playing with my kids, doing my thing, and go, I'm gonna go to sleep tonight, and it's just gonna be the day's over, and that is the day. So
Yeah.
why am I here? Like, if that's all it is, why am I here? But then all those moments create the moment I'm here now. I think of memories like that's why I was so life's this weirdly fluid, unfluid thing. But then I click back in and go, but man, you love it all, right? Like then just enjoyment. There's this good emotions. Maybe it's just to be here and be present and experience his emotions. Like it's really what we are. We're a collection of chemical synapses that feel and see the world and sense it and then have a feeling. And that's what I remember or I like or I dislike, right? It's a collection of feelings. And so there is this separation because in Singer's book, he talks about how people, if I ask who you are, you'll say, I am Anthony. what, you're the sound of words that make Anthony. You're an A. And he's
Yeah.
like, that's not who you are. And he says, have you ever had a moment in time where you do something and you go, Ant, man, what are you doing? I go, yeah, it's a separation there. He goes, well, you're the person talking to the person who's doing the thing.
Right.
You're this. So what we're seeing right now is a projected choice I have of my identity to the world right now.
Mhm.
And there's a separate guy who's probably analyzing like my toes and my kids walking in. Like there's a different guy back here.
Yeah.
And that's who you are. But how are you choosing to express yourself in the real world? So the conversation can go pretty deep if you choose to. But
Yeah,
at the
for
end of the day, I
sure.
realize, I think on both sides of the coin, your identity is who you are when you are not thinking about who you are. And
I
if you
love that
want to check that,
definition. That's a really cool definition, and it feels like it's a combination of a couple things for me. It feels like it's like emotional intelligence, it's awareness, it's leadership. It's like, who are you being? Who are you being? And if you're not happy with how you're showing up in the world and the results you're getting, or being present with your family, any of those things, it's like then your choice is to go in and do, you call it doing the dark work. Like, who are you being
yeah,
when you're by yourself? And Tom has
yeah,
he has a great quote, and I'm spacing out what it is now. It was like something about yourself when you're by yourself. I think who you being when you're, I forgot what it is, but something like that. And
there's
it
one,
was
yeah.
the exact thing you just said, basically.
Yeah, there's a guy. Well, the guy. When I was in college, we had this quote that was on the backside of our football door, and it said, "The best kind of pride is that which compels someone to do their best, even when no one is watching."
Yeah, yeah,
And that's the kind of person that if I can't be disciplined to myself, I can't be disciplined to you in the world.
right.
If I'll let myself down, I'm gonna let you down. It's weird. Like it may take longer, but I'll do it. And so my biggest thing is I need to have an identity that's built upon a person that I feel proud for. That if you saw me in a dark moment and I didn't know you were watching, I'd still know that you were proud of me and know that I did it. Like I did it. Like
Yeah,
I work out 5 days a week, and there are days that I have like I don't want to finish the workout. I'm like, look, if I missed a set or a rep, no one would know, but I would know. And
yeah,
that matters more to me than anything else you can imagine because it allows me to come and do this and talk with confidence and pride because I know that if you were to put a camera on my life, the things I've done in the light will come, or done in the dark will come to the light. And it's a biblical thing. What you do in the dark will come to the light. And we always had this negative view of like, don't do bad stuff because it'll come out. But no, what if you do good stuff? That'll
mm,
also come out. And so the way
mm,
you show up and talk all these things, man, it's all tied to the same demographic of how we think. It's like you got to do dark work, not just for the skill set or because you got to do it for you and just you. And if that be good enough,
yeah. It's congruency, right? Congruency and alignment
it's huge.
to this picture that you have, this identity that you've created. How
Yeah,
do you
because it was.
what would you suggest people do to install a new
Yeah.
identity if they're not digging their personal identity now?
Mhm.
What would be the best way to start to get them to become aware of who they want to be and to step into that and install it into their brain?
I think first you have to find some people that you need to be able to feel comfortable giving you insight of who you are, because everything that we will become comes in a backside of actions. If you do the wrong actions, you don't get there. You waste time, right? But you need to know what the right ones are. So the part of this that I think is important is like, see who in the world are you right now that you don't realize you are, and be okay with hearing what that is. Let the ego subside, take it all in. And then as you
Yeah.
take it in, realize there's going to be a selection of things, actions, habits, perspectives that must kind of be infused in that are going to feel like you're in somebody else's body. Like it's like I don't want to do that. Like, but those are the things that got to be done because you'll find out what the characteristics are you are missing and what you need to have in, and those only come from work. And it's usually again uncelebrated, unsupported, unsexy work that is arduous and it's the necessary path to get the success you want. But it cannot be fueled by anybody else's perspective of you, support of you, nothing. It's got to be for you. And when you do that, you start little by little installing parts of the identity that you will go to battle for. Because when I was a kid, I had this mentality when I'd done all this work to become a better football player of a whole offseason of killing myself with no celebration. Nobody was clapping hands, no social media. And I had this thought in my head of I have done too much work in the dark for you to take what is mine in the light. And that's a mentality that lives and breathes in my soul right now. So when I show up to this world right now, I've done too much research, thinking, reading, conversations for me to hide my information from the light like we're doing now. So
Yeah.
I come and talk with full confidence. I could be wrong, and if it is, cool, I'll take that in. Like let me figure it out. But the reality is, every person we know that's had a great deal of success, they have done so much work in the dark that they can't wait for it to come to the light.
Yeah.
I, I get a question often that goes, Ant, man, I'm afraid of taking this next step. I'm apprehensive. What if I fail? And I'm scared of this thing. And I go, think about like if LeBron James took all the offseason and go kill the weights and learn the stuff and practice. Do you think he's worried about coming out on game one? No, man, he can't wait. He's chomping at the bit to get out there. He's like, you have no idea what's about to be unleashed on you. That mentality. That didn't
Yeah.
come from the Instagram posts in his past. No, it becomes
No, that comes
from the
from,
work he did
yeah,
that no one saw him do.
it's fucking
And
rocking
that's what
it.
people are, yeah, that's what you got to do. So if you're feeling apprehensive, you got a lot of dark work you got to get done.
Yeah, it's like I think what you do so well, which is part of my observation of you all the time, is like there's that peaceful center and there's
Hmm.
that confidence of like, hey, I've done some fucking epic deep work and I've been through a lot of
Yeah.
shit in my life. And
Hmm.
there's that like it's the peaceful warrior slash like animal. Like warrior, like
Yeah.
I'm on it, like I'm on my mission, I'm on my purpose to help people. Like this is who I am, this is how I show up, this is who I be. It's congruent, and if it's not, I'm gonna fix it.
Yeah. Or I'm just gonna not worry about your perspective because I can't be liked by everybody, and that's
Amen
okay.
to that.
There's people in my life that if I have their respect, I'm good. And if there are people that come and I don't respect that say, "Oh, you should be doing this and that," that's totally cool. I may not be for you. It doesn't mean that I'm bad or you're wrong. It just means that in this billions and billions of humans, we might not be the perfect fit, and that's okay. So I'm
Yeah.
not gonna be back and forth and capricious based on a couple of people's perspectives. I know who I am. I know where areas of my life must be improved, and if I don't know the label, I have people I can touch base with and say, "What do you see?" And they may tell me stuff my ego doesn't want to hear, but if it's stuff to work on, I work on it, and that's okay. And I keep pressing on. I think if people don't know you enough to dislike you, they don't know you enough to love you.
Yeah, amen. And the people, the other thing is too, like you're in the room with people you trust. You're not going to take, you're not going to take, like you said, like trolls off the internet or whatever. They don't have any clue. They're
Don't
sitting
do
in
it.
their mother's basement or whatever they're doing, and they're just
Yeah.
miserable in their life. But the
Mhm.
one thing I notice about high level people is they are not afraid to share the truth with you with love and call
Mhm.
you out. Like if you have a goal and you have a vision for your life and you're not showing up properly or you're doing something off, they're not going to shame you. They're not going to like beat you about it, but they
Yeah.
call you forward and they tell you the truth and you appreciate it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, some people take that assertiveness as aggression when it's not. It's just being assertive and being direct
It's
about what you need
love.
to.
It's love too. It's from
It is
people
love.
that are like that are living the life that you want to live, or at least in that characteristic or that particular
Yeah,
field like you're talking
yeah.
about.
Genuine love, not tough love. I think
No,
love
it's real
naturally is
love.
tough.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
it's real deep love. It's like they actually care.
Yeah.
It's
If
a
not, they just let you feel good in your little bubble, and your
yeah,
life would keep going how it's going. But those who want to nudge you,
yeah.
we realize when we say things, it may unsettle you. It's not to have you unsettled, but it's to tell you what you need to hear. And we know that that might damage the relationship. But I'd much rather have you get the nudge you need than you stay in that pocket because it damages my respect for you, and
Right.
that will damage the relationship.
I love it. I love it. Do you have is there like a specific identity that you have for yourself that you can share? Your current identity?
Specific I think you show up in different ways, which is kinda cool. How I am with you is not how I am with my kids or my wife or on a
Right.
stage.
Right, right.
The identity that I'm in right now as a whole is called season of dad. Like, I'm a dad. Like, my kids are
Nice.
outside. I'm getting text messages over here like, "Dad, when are you done?" But no, I think for me, is that everything focuses around, like, how do I get home as fast as possible? How am I present as often as I can? Summertime is here. I wanna be here for the summertime. And there'll be part of my identity when they all leave the house, that I'm like, okay, now I'm create for the world, build a whole empire, Anthony. But that identity
Mm,
is different. And so I think you need to be okay with understanding that there's certain identities that you may have in different parts of your world, but also making sure there's harmony between them all. Like
mm,
making sure that my work identity doesn't overlap into my family identity or into my health identity or into my I don't know, like my marriage identity. There's got to be certain areas where I understand the limitations and boundaries for each one of those within the whole Anthony.
yeah, it's like so obviously it's like we don't have one specific identity. We have different identities for different roles in our life, different parts in our life, yeah.
Yeah, different expressions. I think
Yeah,
there's
and
still
different seasons and different
yeah,
seasons too.
different. There's still core principles and values, but you might find a different expression of intimacy, or different expression of directness, or different expression of, the we'll call it performance. If I'm on a stage, that guy is vastly different than the dad who's watching, Incredibles 2 on the couch with the kids.
Yeah, yeah, I
It's a
could see
different,
that.
but
I
I
could see
say
that.
same values, same morals. They still float in there, but it's a different expression of the parts of my identity.
Right. You're not like rocking the couch on the stage, stand on the top of the couch, hearing your stories, pounding your chest. Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. It's a congruency.
Yeah.
So, well, how old are your kids, by the way?
Oldest is 17, heading to college here this fall, I'm sorry. And then my
Man,
twin, 12, will be 13 in August.
you have twins?
I got twins. Yeah.
Twin girls or boys?
One of each, boy and a girl.
Oh, nice, nice. You're a blessed man. You're a blessed man.
I am, man. No complaints in this end.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring you into the wrap up room because I'm gonna respect your time because I know you got to get back to
Appreciate it.
those kids. So we're gonna go in here. The room didn't really change, but the moon flew back in and the title
Hey,
came back
yo.
in. I appreciate you being here, man. This is one of those episodes where I feel like we're literally just getting warmed up. I'd love to have you back if you're up for that. I'd love to go
You
really,
go.
really go deep, and hear more about your life and your details and your perspectives and how you live in all these different areas. It'd be dope.
Happy
So
to.
yeah, and take a moment to just reflect back to you. I think you're a really beautiful human being. You do shine your humanity delightfully and firmly. And I can feel your heart. I can feel your soul. I can feel your wisdom. I can feel your work and how clean your energy feels from even with all the stuff you've been through. Like you've just cleared it out and you've become this like solid, just foundation of I'm not saying perfect because I'm not trying to like blow smoke up your ass, but it's like,
Yeah,
but
I'm not.
you've done the work, man. You've done the
Yeah.
work, and it shows. And you're a great leader, and I appreciate you.
Mhm. Welcome. I appreciate you too, man. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So, where's the best place people can find you?
Yeah, go to at Anthony Trucks on Instagram, man. As my camera flickers, but at Anthony Trucks on Instagram is the fastest way to find me.
Okay.
Yeah, or if you go to identityshiftbook.com, you can get my book. It's there. And yeah, outside of that, man, I say go to social media. If you like me, pay attention. If you don't,
Yeah.
I still love you.
Yeah, that's right. And if you don't like him, what's wrong with you?
Uh,
That's good. So, all right. And one last question:
yeah.
what do you recommend people to help them free themselves to be themselves?
I think the first thing is drop the ego, man. Like realize that the thing that you have to do is going to happen at the sacrifice of the ego, which keeps you in that comfort zone. And you may think like, I don't want to be seen like X or Y or Z, so I may not do that thing. And I promise that's going to be the biggest barrier to your growth. EGO, everyone's greatest obstacle, ego.
I love it. That's a mic drop. That's a mic drop. All right, man. I'm gonna go wrap up the show, and I'll see you in the green room in a couple seconds and let you go.
Cool.
All right, man.
Sounds good.
Thanks. All right, look at that. Go buy that book. Anything this guy writes, teaches, speaks on, he's coming from a place that he has walked, he has lived, and he is continuing to live. So go check out the book, his website, Instagram, and I'm sure you'll feel extremely excited and happy that you did. I hope you enjoyed this episode and I hope you picked up some serious wisdom and really were able to tap into your heart and open up in your soul and remember who you really are and to surround yourself with epic people, get in the right rooms, be authentic, be real, be prepared to fall, be prepared to shine, and go do what you do best. Much love. We'll talk to you soon. Peace out. Remember to please subscribe, like, share. You know the drill. Do all the things.